to weep. And David's two wives, Ahinoam and Jezreel, the Jezreelite, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal, the Carmelite, had been taken captive. Now David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and his daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord. I want you to look at and take that into consideration, that David strengthened himself in the Lord, his God. Then David said to Abiathar the priest, the Ahimelech's son, please bring me the ephod here to me. Please bring the ephod here to me. And Abiathar brought the ephod to David. So David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue, for you shall surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. So David went and did, and so David went. As I read this, I looked at in situations where we find ourselves, hopeless situations, situations that may be threatening our lives. Look at the armies of David. They were so depressed and affected and grieved that they decided to stone David. But had it been David continued in that mourning mood, crying, they would have stoned him to death. But David encouraged himself in the Lord and stood up and said, let me inquire of the Lord what he wants me to do on this matter. David is a great man to take such action. When your child, your children, and your wives have been taken, and you say, let me pray. Let me first pray and ask God. I want to thank God for the life of David, because that is what God expects us as his children to be able to do. No matter the kind of situation that you may be finding yourself now, all God is telling us to do is to seek his face first before taking any action. Seek the face of God. Inquire from him. And David did not just stop by saying, should I pursue? He said, if I pursue, will I overtake them? And he went further to say, if I overtake them, will I recover all? God is a specific God. He gives specific instructions. It is we that are too much in a hurry and undisciplined to take our time and ask God details of what he wants us to do. And that is why we have problems. So David took time and acted as God directed him. And they pursued the Amalekites and recovered everything, their children and everything that was taken. Nothing was missing from what they took from Ziklag. So that when God is telling us that we are more than conquerors. Through him who loved us, he loved us so much that he says we are more than conquerors. And whatever situation we may find ourselves in, God is able to bring us out of it. And we can be able to stand and testify that we are more than conquerors when we must have passed the situation and overcome. I remember when we were still bearing children, and after the first child, we started having problems of childbirth, miscarriages, and all sorts of things. Miscarriages, child death. One of our child, I was in the hospital carrying one and praying to God, and that one died. I said, God, what is this? That time, I became a second pastor after our daddy in the house, because I have to encourage my wife in that situation. I have to encourage him, encourage her. As the man of the house. And one of the days I told her, I hope God is not trying to do family planning for us. This may be our own family planning that God is doing for us. So let us take it easy with God and not blame him. We don't know what tomorrow may be. And these are the words I use to encourage my wife. Let us look to God. Having checked ourselves that we are in right standing with God, let us continue to pray and know that he loves us. And if he allowed these things to happen, he allowed them for a purpose. And that purpose will be for our good at the end. And brethren, I tell you today, God gave us 3 more children after the first one. And today we can say that we are more than conquerors in that area. There are many other areas that I'm still believing God for him to help me to conquer. Likewise yourself. Whatever it is that you may be passing through or that may be standing before you now, no matter how many they may be, if you align yourself with God, inquire from him how to go about it. This same God that told David to pursue and that he will recover all will also help you to pursue and recover all in Jesus' name. So instead of losing hope and throwing in the towel, we must continue the fight. We have been called into a battlefield as Christians. If we have that understanding, it will help us to go through this Christian life without complaining too much. What did I say? Without complaining too much. Because we all complain. I still complain. But looking back and seeing how God have led us so far, one have every reason to still stand and believe God that whatever it is, that he is able to see us through. Sometimes the situation that causes shame may come upon us. Some other times, it may be threat. For example, your house rent is due, and there's no money to pay your rent. And all your creditors are around and wanting to take 1 or 2 things from your house. We saw in the case of Ahab and Ben-Hadad, who was threatening Ahab. By then, Ahab was in tune with God. God was with him. Remember what I said, God was with him. So that we ourselves must always make sure, if we want God to fight our battles for us, we must always make sure that we are in tune with God, that God is with us. And we must also inquire of him. Ben-Hadad made 32 kings to gather to fight Ahab. 32 kings. He gathered from cities, 32 cities, to fight Ahab. And what happened? God gave Ahab victory. And let us just read some parts of it for you to see how God gave the victory to Ahab. As we look at 1 Kings 20. 1 Kings chapter 20. I read from verse 1. Now Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria, gathered all his forces together. 32 kings were with him. He made requests from Ahab. For want of time, he made requests from Ahab through his messengers that Ahab should bring everything in his house, his silver, gold, his children, the wives, everything. Ahab agreed to do that. But when he now told him that he will send his servants to search the house and collect everything that is good, Ahab spoke with his elders and said, see what this man is asking for. And I cannot do it. They said, it's true. You can't do it. Don't do it. And Ahab sent a message to them that he will not do what the king is requesting. This last one, but the first two that is ready to do, but this last one of searching his house